Hello, everyone. Welcome to 2022 Marlin No-Till Day. And thanks for checking out our soybean production tour. My name is Avat Shekoofa. I'm a crop physiologist with the UT Plant Sciences. And I'm going to talk to you today about production under extreme environments, screening for drought-tolerant soybeans. But before talking about this topic that we have for today, I'm gonna share this slide with you so you can get some information about some resources that you can have access to our research results and our research updates on variety selection for drought environments, screening techniques, water management, and actually irrigation scheduling too. So I thought it's good to share this. And one of these that you can have access to it via UT is utcrops.com. And then you can have access to Google Scholar or ResearchGate to check out our peer-reviewed publications. Well, we are living in a world of extreme drought, floods, storms, right? We're living in the environment in West Tennessee that our soybean production is mostly almost 88% or maybe a little 89% of it under rain-fed conditions. When we are producing a crop under rain-fed, so we don't have access to the supplement water, right? One of the best tools that we can use is selecting genotypes for that environment. So screening genotypes and finding the genotype that can do better under any specific environments, the environment that has limitation on water or somehow the situation that we have during growing season that we may face short-term drought. Right? We do that during season. So it is great to know which one of genotypes of soybean can do better under that condition. Or when we have an extreme situation of water limitations, how fast and quick or slow these genotypes can come back and can recover. Well, here is an example in our plot in West Tennessee. So you can see some soybean genotypes in August that we had 2 weeks of stress condition and water limitation and high temperature. They were extremely wilted. Maintaining leaves for those crops very difficult. While we had others that they maintained the leaves much better and they didn't show that much of wilting under the environment. And also when it rained, they recover faster than the others. So these kind of changes and maintaining leaf and sustainability of some of the genotypes was very interesting. And for that reason, we wanted to understand and to know more about the physiological activity of leaves and particularly stomata and how stomata responses of the genotype that they are doing much better and keep the leaf maintaining very sustainable under water limitation than the other is different. Okay, so to help understanding that, I came out with this slide and we can look at this. So what we're looking for under limited water availability is the genotype that can save soil water. And soil water conservation is a most important part of this story because the plant that is lowering down the water loss through transpiration process and is saving water through those tiny pores on leaves to partially opening them is going to have a turgid leaf. It's going to have, when later in the season water limitation is happening during grain filling, still can cool down the canopy versus the other hypothetical genotype here that we have. It cannot do any of these parameters well. So the plant is facing the stress and it's going to be showing that wilting and later on is going to impact on the potential of yield and production. That's what hypothetically these two plants were expecting to show in the production phase. Well, to understand this better, we decided to select a group of genotypes, mostly soybean genotypes common in this area with maturity group 4.9 to 5. And we tested them in the control environment and different control environmental conditions, and we stressed them. And here is the result of how the soil water conservation happened among this range of genotypes. So on y-axis, you can see the soil water retention. On x-axis, you have the genotypes. So you can see we have genotypes here that they slowly release the water through transpiration. So they have still between 0.7 to 0.8 out of 1 water left in the soil while they starting reducing their like stomata closure. So that's a good sign. They already saving this water and they reduce that water loss slowly, you know, and they're not gonna lose plenty of water early. How about these guys? These guys are opening the stomata much in a higher rate than the previous one that I explained, and they're losing plenty of water. So you can see when they starting to show the stomata closure, we already have only 0.3, 0.4 of the amount of that 1 scale of water left in the soil. So this can impact the final activity and production when the stress is happening in the field. Well, we went one step further here and we tested those genotypes for their responses to stress. And then we added water to them after they showed extreme stress condition. We wanted to observe their recovery situation and see how they're gonna recover an extreme water limitation. So it was very interesting to see that some of the genotypes in 1 day they recover. Most leaves they came back to the turgid situation. The stomata activity came back to 50% normal for some of them, but some they still didn't have the activity of stomata that we were expecting. They reached to the point of 25% of the activity of a normal condition. So further than that, we wanted to see if the density of stomata in the microscopic level is changing. We did study and we take leaf sample from different genotypes under stress environment, and we notice the genotypes that they are faster in earlier closing stomata, they have lower density of stomata compared to those that they close their stomata and they transpire more water. They had higher density of stomata. So that was very interesting in the level of control environmental study that we did. But then we took this to the field condition. We had the access to having the rain-fed environment and irrigation situation to test good number of these genotypes, but we wanted to know if the environment is extreme and we can stress the plant from early reproductive stage to the end of crop production stage, like the R6. So if we stress the plant in that time, how can we do that and eliminate rainfall? So we use this rainout shelter. They can be moved over the field and they are like portable greenhouses and they can completely eliminate the rainfall and the plants can be facing the very good deal of stress during season, which later on I'll share slides with you to see how environmental conditions were different under the shelter versus even rain-fed conditions. The other thing we mentioned in the previous slides was, so if these genotypes are saving water through early stomata closure versus those that they don't, they should show some changes in temperature, correct? So we wanted to see if we can monitor that change in temperature in between or among all these genotypes that they have shown diverse responses in control environment. So we use an airborne system and using high-tech thermal cameras attached to that to be able to observe the changes. And pretty much we noticed that genotypes that they have different RGB here, you can see they show different temperature levels. Some of them were much cooler than the other. So in detail, I can show you this image that we compared, particularly one genotype that was doing much better in water saving from early in the growth stages and leaf maintaining and slow wilting compared to the one that had fast wilting and then was closing stomata later and was spending more water. So in August, mid-August, when this test was done, we took thermal images and you can see the change in temperature between these two. Obviously, we had cooler canopy for the one that was saving water early on versus the one that was not doing that water saving trait. So the other thing we did was looking at quantifying this data to see how these temperature on y-axis versus genotype on x-axis. So can genotype, after adding water when they face completely this stress amount, when you add water, how quickly the canopy temperature is changing. It was very interesting to see the canopy temperature was changing for the genotype that had the water saving trait, the stomata closure, much faster, and they cooled down by 1.5 degrees cooler than those that they had, they didn't show the trait, or they were drought sensitive. So here is one graph that I wanted to share with you just to show you how temperature and canopy temperature plotted versus yield can show the difference between the two environments. Almost 6-degree temperature between irrigated plots and rain-out shelter. Plants not only are facing the water deficit stress, but also they're facing the extreme higher temperature rate that can cause the changes in yield and production rate. So we have much better yield and production, obviously under irrigated versus those extreme condition of the shelter. Well, now let's look at the yield per genotype under that rain-out shelter. And you can see here that how clearly under x-axis you have yield and y-axis genotype, different genotypes, and you can see most of these genotypes, we selected them because they had high potential to be drought tolerant. And we wanted to see even if we can capture that diversity in different drought tolerant lines. And it was pretty obvious that they still can do very wide range of yield responses. Particularly, look at these 4 genotypes. Well, let me remind you something. These 3 genotypes, they all have Ellis, one of our drought tolerant line, as a parent line. And we notice the consistency because they are showing a similar water saving trait. They are doing a great job in production, even under that extreme stress of water and temperature. Well, what is next? We want to pursue this use of airborne unmanned system equipped with very good thermal cameras and RGB cameras to capture more detailed information and then use the different algorithms that we have and the data to help us with using this technology for better high throughput screening to be able to screen more genotypes in a short amount of time for their physiological potential. So in 2022, we want to test the new breeding population that Ellis line and another drought tolerant line were crossed, and we have hundreds lines out of this crossing to be tested under environmental conditions that we apply extreme stress in a control greenhouse study first, then to be moved out to the field study in future years. So we want to use our airborne tools and our thermal cameras for thermal imaging and soybean water for our soybean water management. For sure, we want to use some of the breeding lines that they're high oleic and they have Ellis line as one of their parents for this experimental side under extreme environment as well as rain-fed and irrigated. One very interesting thing that we want to do is looking at the size, color, protein, and oil changing and the seed quality of these soybean lines. And see how this extreme environment can change that, especially in a line that is a high oleic. So to summarize all of this, I can tell you we are trying to give you the best horse for the race. So we want to find those best potential in soybean lines that can help with sustainable yield, even we are under unstable environment. Thank you very much for your time. My contact information is available here. I'll be happy to take any question via email if you need to reach out. Thank you and have a wonderful day.